3. This meeting was supposed to start at 10, but our executive meeting right in the middle of a discussion, so we allowed that to run a little long. I apologize for late start. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Second.
Any discussion on the agenda? Actually, amended agenda. Not all in favor? Carries. How about the minutes from November 5th, 2020?
I make a motion we approve the minutes of the November 5th, 2020 meeting.
I'll second. Any discussion or comments on the minutes? Not all in favor? Carries. If anyone has any conflicts of interest on any items on the agenda, let us know when we get to that item. Public comments, 3 minutes.
Do any attendees in the West Conference Room want to make public comment? If so, one at a time, step up to the table and look directly at the camera and speak.
Is there anybody up there?
There's 2 people up there. Are there any public comments from the West Conference Room?
No.
All right, thank you.
On the phone?
There was one that had said that they wanted to make remote comment, but due to the meeting starting late, they ended up emailing in some information, which I will email out later or attach to the city packet. I'm going to read it.
What was it about?
It is regarding
Fair maps.
fair maps, yeah. Fair mapping, redistricting.
Does anyone attending via phone want to make a public comment? If so, state your name. Nobody, sir.
All right, well, say we have no public comments then. Are there any supervisors here not seated as committee members who'd like to share any information with us?
John, you might want to just ask the chair about being able to talk at line quarry agenda.
Yeah, if some certain thing comes up that is interest from my constituents, can I participate?
Do we have Lime Quarry on here? Oh, yeah, discussion of possible action.
That would be one.
Yeah, we would say that you could participate on the discussion, but probably not if we took any action, probably not. All right, we got some reports and presentations. COVID-19 budget update.
Just to run you through a few numbers real quickly. Sales tax collected through the end of November this year, $2,887,000. Last year, $2,715,000. We're up about 6% collected over last year. Now, as far as sales tax actually coming in for the year, and remember, we run 2 months behind on collections, but we can report what will actually be coming to us. For the year, we are up 11.4%. Although I do caution that because November was a bad month. So November in 2020, we were down 8.7% from November of 19. So we're still taking a very cautious approach. It looks good right now, but it's a very cautious approach that we're taking. As far as expenses incurred from COVID, the other day, actually yesterday, we received our payment from the rest of recovery of about $481,000. We've incurred about $555,000 in expenses related to COVID. And so far, we received grant reimbursement for about $530,000. So, and we have a lot of grants coming in. So we're faring well financially on getting back money through grants for expenses out. The payment we got from the state yesterday was $481,000 and change.
Here, I have a question about the COVID stuff.
Yep.
So Chad, I got contacted by a school administrator about funding for, why schools can't, they have nurses in the schools and why schools can't get tests, right? So they felt like it might help with, the lag time. What we're seeing out there is a problem with teachers. I was told it's not about the kids being sick. It's about staff and bus drivers not having enough teachers in the school, not having enough bus drivers get the kids to school. And they were talking about wanting funding for doing testing in schools. And I did run that up the flagpole. But in that situation, if there was a way for schools to get this, there was some rough numbers thrown out. But is there a way for schools to still get part of the grant money or get compensated that? And maybe it needs to go to Health and Human Service Committee. But since we're funding these things, it's just a question, have you guys discussed that at all?
So there are different pots of money coming in. The Rest Recovery was specifically for the county, for county incurred expenses. There's another pot of money, the CARES Act money, which is coming in downstairs through CSD. We're starting to get some of that money in, and it's funding our LTEs and stuff. And I know, and I don't want to speak for Tanya, I know the other day she talked to Vince and I about saliva tests for schools and things like that. I think that money's starting to come in, and we had ordered some, but I don't know great detail on her operation.
Comment was, there's only one school that has asked for that, and that those funds, that we can provide those tests to them. So he wants them.
Oh, they're available? Okay. And so was that superintendent, do you think, notified of that yet?
He has been in conversations with Tanya.
Because I've heard the other school administrator said, if you can get it, we're all going to do it.
Well, we get X number of dollars, but there are these different pots, and we're just figuring out where to get
How to
the money
get to
from.
it?
And we're trying to make, we're universally throughout the county, I think we're doing a really good job, public health and all, pulling these different pots of money together, figuring out how to fund these things.
So you're saying schools do have access to the county for test kits then if they want them?
That's according to our public health officer.
Okay.
Yes, we have grant money that is there for those tests to be given to them.
Gotcha. So that's a good thing. How do we roll that information out? Obviously, it's not our job at general government, but that was my question. Thanks.
That's all I've got, Mr. Chair.
All right, how about a space analysis and bonding update?
Yes, at the last board meeting, they talked about the ability of going ahead with the A&E services for that project. I did email everyone the RFP for that. Going out for A&E services for the update and remodel of the government center. I did leave some things blank on there, and actually the dates until I get approval to go out for the A&E services and populate those dates, giving the companies 30, 45 days to bring back their proposals. And subsequently, once those proposals come back, this committee then could interview possible candidates for A&E services, unless this committee wanted to retain the steering, be the steering committee for that project, or would they defer to the whole county board for those proposals? I left that kind of area a little blank and can fill those in whatever you guys decide to do on that. So it's ready to go, primarily out there. I just got to add the dates, and if this will be the steering committee for that project, or if you wish to have it to the committee of the whole.
Sure. So I read the proposal, Mo, and a couple concerns I had with it. Well, one is I thought we had already agreed that the committee of the whole would handle this. That's why that was my first take on that. But one of the things I'm still concerned about with the FRP language is that it refers to it in multiple places as we get through this FRP that we're going to work with a construction manager. Yeah, I mean, we're going out for A&E, but it references always a construction manager in the document that it's presumed then that we're going to hire a construction manager to work on pricing, where I thought the A&E was supposed to go out to get contractors to bid it, not just construction managers. That we would get fixed prices and not negotiate them.
Okay. Yeah. No, I can.
So I think that needs to get cleaned up. And the other concern I have is we still have everything lumped together. And I felt like my feeling of the consensus with the board is we were going for A&E strictly for mechanicals. But it still talks about in the A&E proposals, it has a site design requirement in there. Well, to me, why are we spending money to do a site design? We're not expanding the footprint of the building unless you guys need to change parking lots or entrances. But it says in their site design, scope of work, and it still says scope of work has interior remodeling and public flow analysis done. And I thought we were saying we just want to go after mechanicals. The incidental work could be picked up, like if we were tearing this whole room out, well, now what do we want the room to look like? But it almost looks like the A&E, I mean, we're going to have higher numbers the way it looks like the A&E is proposed, because they're basically doing everything Wool suggested to do. And I thought we said only the mechanical side of it is what we were going to want to bid now.
Okay, that could be my misunderstanding as I was doing the mechanical side of it, looking at if we're doing the mechanicals, the architect would look at is there changes being needed versus just changing the mechanicals and coming back behind it. But I can solely put it as mechanicals and then see how I don't know. It looks
I thought that was your original intent of this, is to have them come in and say what needs to be done mechanically. And they would also be able to say, which means we're going to have to tear these walls out and redo this. And that would give us the opportunity to say, oh, if you're going to tear these walls out already, what can we do? How can we rebuild it?
Yeah, but that's not how the RFP is written. The RFP says to do exactly what Wool's gave us. And they refer to Wool's documents, and it refers to Wool's moving all the spaces around. So it says to do that in the RFP. It doesn't say only do it when we're addressing mechanicals.
Yeah, I included the Wold study just as information for them, so they're not starting from square one of what was actually happening.
Sure.
Was the attempt on just the supplement on that.
And I think it's good to send it to them so they know what we were looking at. And it's good information for an architect or an engineer to have. But the A&Es are going to come back with that full scope of work. And I don't have it in front of me, but there just seem to be a lot of things in the scope of work that I didn't think the board was ready to move forward with.
Did it ever go to the board for a vote on what they wanted to move forward with? No. So shouldn't it go to the board, and maybe they want to go?
An RFP, it doesn't need to go to the board. We're just saying we want.
We're going to put on an
Just a
RFP
bid.
and the county board wants the full scope of the work done. Why wouldn't we put the RFP out for all of it?
Well, then if we're going to do it, we should have it broke down. Then you need to know, because the question's going to come in is how much of this A&E is for remodeling the building to give us a new boardroom. You know, they're not going to break that out if we don't say in the RFP. Right now, the RFP is everything Wolf did.
Yeah.
And
This is what we asked them to do.
we'll do.
You know?
But then I thought at our,
And then we never did decide what we're going to do
we said we were going to set it out for an RFP.
with the whole thing.
Well, no, I thought the consensus was the RFP was for mechanicals.
That's what it was.
And that's why we went with an A&E. That's what you're doing. You're getting architectural and engineering to get a bid on what it was going to cost to redesign the architectural and engineering on this building, to do that work. I thought the consensus was we weren't looking at right now to do the full deal.
Yeah, I don't think that was the intent.
We didn't vote.
When I listened to the board, I thought it was the intent was to, if we move forward with the A&E services, be it mechanicals and all encompasses, that give us a better idea of what the entire project would look like versus Wolves was just a concept analysis where the A&E services would pinpoint down more cost, more detail on how and what things are going to be moved in the mechanical side of it and how that would affect the moving of offices or anything of that sort.
Do you think the RFP, the way it's currently structured, is going to give the board the idea of here's mechanicals and here's moving the boardroom?
It'll give you cost on the total project on that, in the A&E services being, whether it's solely mechanical or it's the including the remodel of it, you know, the cost of that A&E service is going to be approximately 8% of the total project, be it just the mechanical project or the whole project. I can rewrite it to solely do mechanicals, leaving the envelope intact for the building. And at some point down the line, once we get that, if the committee or the board wants to look at, okay, we're going to spend this much to do this, are we going to change that? Because, you know, we're going to be in the ceilings and the walls naturally. We could do that also. But I was going under the concept of my thought was that my understanding was that if we get the E&E services, we're going to pinpoint better on how that would look along with the remodel, doing the mechanicals and how that would affect the remodel versus doing the mechanicals and at some point down the road having to come back down again and do the architectural for the remove.
I just felt like I personally would like to see it separated, that I could see what the engineering and what the design would take to redo all the mechanicals, because that's what we need to do. And that the desire of making the building more efficient with people coming in and out of it, it would be nice to see it as a separate number. If one number says it's this and the other number is that, I know there's a little overlap, but I thought the board wanted to know the two numbers, because I don't think we want to vote on that. You know, if the RFP comes back and you got a blank number, they're going to design the new boardroom. I don't know that supervisors are all going to vote for designing a new boardroom.
You'd be more comfortable with an RFP just for mechanicals and a separate RFP then for remodel. Once we have
The same firm can bid and say, hey, for mechanicals, we're going to spend this much money to design mechanicals. And then here's our second proposal on your RFP you requested, just like you do on other options. That your second RFP, they would, just like the line Corps, you had them bid it three different ways, that you would give us that document on the architectural change in the boardroom. Just keeping it simple.
So then it could go to county board on how much they want to do it. You just want
Yes.
to do the mechanical
Scope of work.
or you want to do the mechanical and the remodel. This is the cost.
Yes. Do that design fee up front.
So we would get both of them now. Is that what you're saying? Put RFPs out for both, but you want them separated.
No, the RFP could be one RFP, as long as they can break it out within the RFP. Here's mechanicals and here's site design or room design or.
different items.
You can have a choice.
And when you get the bid, you can go back and say, here's what you got.
That was what I thought we were trying to get, so the board would have that.
No, I appreciate the clarity. We can send that RFP out and get those two different costs so they're separated.
And then I just think it would be better that we wouldn't have the construction manager piece in there. That
And eliminate that, and that could be a board decision later on whether we want to move forward with construction.
whoever bids it, however we want to do it, we do it later.
Okay. Nope, I'll make the changes.
And this doesn't have to go to the board.
No, but do you guys approve of us sending out this?
Yeah, why not? Or we want to know. We need to get the bids back. The bids will be determined by the board. We're just asking you guys to send out an RFP.
The other component is once we get the RFPs back for those firms, you want to interview the top three.
Like we did with the highway shop?
Yeah. You want to interview the top three at this committee level, or do you want to bring them to the board to see what they can do at a committee of the whole?
So Russ, were you on that committee where we did, that was executive, I think, where we actually had multiple bids and the executive narrowed it down from 6 bidders to the top 3 and said, these are the 3 we're going to present to the board.
And then they interview you.
That was the executive, that was done at the executive. You know,
Would you like to see it the same way?
Oh, I think that would, I mean, if you have 10 bidders, we don't want to have to go through all that committee the whole when 7 of them aren't qualified. You know, so some committee should refine the bids to say, hey, we should present these 3 options to the board. I don't know what committee it should be on, but
By financial policy, RFPs go to general government.
there you go.
I have a question in what we're talking about in maybe changing the RFPs. We're not changing really the scope of the RFP. What we're really doing is just breaking out specific dollar amounts so we can view those individually, correct?
Correct. Mr. Chair, I think Mr. Pritchard might be on. I'm going to check.
I'm on a telephone.
Okay, we can hear you now, Mr. Pritchard.
Thank you. I was on the executive committee meeting on WebEx with no problem, and I couldn't log on. So anyway.
Did you have any comments, Mike, or just let us know you're on?
I'm sorry. I'm on what? I'm just on my phone. That's all.
Yeah. Did you have any comments for our discussion?
No. On the government center remodeling, whatever.
Space analysis and the bonding updates.
Oh no, I don't. No.
Did you give us anything on? Is there any bonding updates or not?
So the next steps regarding financing should be once you get the A&E RFPs back and we see the cost, we'll need to make the decision. There's a couple different options. We could proceed with bonding, but we wouldn't want to bond for a smaller amount than a bigger amount we'd want to do. So a possibility, and these are just things to start thinking about. We could pay the A&E out of the general fund balance and then bond once you start the construction project and pay the fund balance back. Or if the RFP is actually within the confines of the contingency fund balance, which I think is around 700 and change right now, we could pay it out of that and then pay it back once you bond for the full project. There are some different options there. So just start thinking about that. But once you see the numbers, we'll have to decide how you want to finance it.
Isn't that what we did on the highway shop? Is we just paid it back, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
How about an IT security audit update presentation from Scott? Good.
Yep, I'm gonna pull it up here. Scott's gonna give a quick presentation. This is in reference to, as you all recall, in 2018, late 2018, we had a IT security audit that.
You guys, just to set the tone for this, we get scams every day in here. I just got one this morning, emailing me, said it was the mayor of Balsam Lake. You know, it's just amazing how many people are out there trying to get people to make a mistake, and they come through the computer, and we got 400 people sitting there at their computer. It just takes one to make a mistake. That's why he's in charge. What he did.
What I'm here for is really to kind of talk to you about all the great things that IT's been doing over the past year. Not only from that audit, but also some additional things that we've been. A few things. We've got secure elections grant that we got some money for to implement some of the projects that we've done this year. We'll do a review of the Clifton, Larson, Allen audit progress, CGIS audit that we also had this year, and just current projects and things that are going to be moving into 2020. With that, secure elections grant, we've got just under $42,000 to implement a few of our projects. We implemented Dark Trace and Solarwinds. Those actually did dual purpose for us. They help support the election security as well as some of the monitoring issues that we had in the Clifton Allen Larson audit. We also had the NIMBUS distributed denial of service attack assessment, which really took a look at everything that we have in place today to see where we have any deficiencies, where we have strengths, that kind of thing. to go into dark trace. Dark trace uses artificial intelligence to scan our network and watch all the traffic that's going in and out of the county. It really picks up, rather than identifying signatures of past exfiltration, things like that. It looks at what our traffic should look like. What does it normally look like? And if there's any anomalies to that, it picks that up, alerts us. We have a security operations center that came with this project that monitors everything 24/7. So if there is a problem, we're notified, and they're there helping us to remediate it. Luckily, we haven't had to use that, but we do have that there. Check people fast one on the dark trees. With that, actually, Solarwinds. Solarwinds was actually put in place. It's another network monitoring tool, as well as server monitoring and log aggregation. So what that means is it's really looking at the actual hardware, all of our network switches, our firewalls, the actual server equipment, and it helps us understand where there's any changes, and so we can address any problems in that, as well as get an overall picture of what our network looks like, something we didn't really have before now. So we could identify where our deficiencies are, where circuits are failing, that kind of thing. So it's a lot of proactive work, as well as the ability to start doing analysis on logs and kind of alerting to any security events from that. Again, these are all deficiencies that were found in the Clifton and Larson audit, where we were able to use that secure elections grant to help fund that. Going into Nimbus, we contracted with a company called Nimbus to do a distributed denial of service attack assessment. We did score kind of in the middle on that, based on where we are in terms of the county being a regional government. But we did have some easily remediated items that we've already put in place. We found a free distributed denial of service attack protection that filters all of our county sites right now, and we were able to get that because we have election site data on our website. So with that, we were able to cover all of our sites. So we're having that all filtered at the moment. Clifton and Larson audit progress. We've got 13 of the 67 general controls remediated at this point. We've got 20 additional that are on track to be completed by the end of this month. A couple of items that we did quickly were the updated password policies. So that matches and actually is beyond what Clifton and Larson had recommended. So that's a more secure area. We disabled the ability to auto forward emails out of the county to personal email addresses. It's really a huge security risk for us, because you don't know what kind of data is going to come on your email account and get sent someplace else, and really helps us comply with our HIPAA and CJIS regulations. We implemented security training across the county. That's been pretty well received. We've even had requests for some software to support that. That's been covered in some of those. So we definitely know people are doing that and taking that seriously. And just this morning, I did get an email from Vince about that situation he was talking about.
Training prepared.
So the dark trace and the Solarwinds were key to closing a large number of those 13 audit findings that we had before. And we're also currently implementing some password vault software to assist with some of the password files. CJIS prestigious audit completion. That was completed with 21 of the 23 audit findings closed out. We do have 2 items, and that's mainly analysis of server logs and the automated reviews and certifications of those logs. So we're going through those, and those should be completed by the end of this year. Just a few projects that we've completed. We did a courtroom polycount system update. We updated branches 1 and 2 to current software and current hardware. We had an issue with Golden Age Manor, where we had a lot of shared accounts that people were using. We've moved those all to individual accounts. So we've increased a lot of on that. We did phone system upgrades. We eliminated a single point of failure, several single points of failure, both in Government Center and the Justice Center. We had any one item in that system, we could have lost at least one or both of the sites. With that, we also did firewall upgrades. We had an event this summer where we lost internet connectivity for the Government Center. That was remediated, and with that, we put in redundant hardware in both Government Center and the Justice Center. So we don't have that issue going forward. We're also looking at network redundancy across the board. One benefit, both security-wise and ease of use, is we've implemented single sign-on. Kronos is actually the first product that we've moved onto that, but we're going to be moving additional products like Financial Edge and any of our other cloud providers that we can add on to that. So county employees will have fewer passwords that they'll have to remember, fewer accounts. We'll be able to lock down access. If someone is terminated, we can flip the switch and they lose access to all of the applications. So it's not like we have to go into each of those applications. We had ESXi host upgrades that just completed this past week. That actually boosts our bandwidth between all of our virtual hosts by about 10 times. So we had 1 gig connections and we're at 10 gig connections. That's going to improve performance of our server infrastructure, as well as allow us to do an additional server consolidation. Which brings me down to my next one. We've reduced our server footprint by 10% this year, and that's just by getting rid of servers that aren't used, servers that are holding data that's off of retention periods, things like that. So we're going to be looking at further reductions in servers, which will reduce costs going forward from licensing to hardware, and that's we'll be looking at that more in 2021. We also did a personal firewall implementation across all PCs across the network. Some projects that we still have in play this year, and we'll be moving some of them will be moving into next year. We've got a Windows 10 migration. We're about 96% complete right now, and really only non-user-based machines are part of that last percent. We're in a really good position on that. We're also looking at cloud migration assessments for being able to utilize cloud providers as not only a master recovery standpoint, but also from a backup recovery standpoint, and that'll be an additional site for us to fail over to, since Government Center and the Justice Center are so close to each other. That's a big concern. We've got an Office 365 pilot that's kicking off this month. We've got 25 users that will be identified or that have been identified to be participants in that, and that's really going to flow into our project for next year to migrate all all of our users over to Office 365, which really not only from an ease of use perspective by getting everyone on consistent versions of Office, but it'll also help us in reduction of servers, because a lot of the data that we're hosting now on servers is going to be hosted on a OneDrive platform, and it'll also support remote work. Those kinds of capabilities. We're also looking at additional telephony and network upgrades. We've got core switches that will be we're going to have additional redundancy put in place for those, as well as soft phones for remote work. We also have an e-signature platform on the docket and set up to allow for people to be able to sign their documents rather than having to come into the office or come into the county buildings, as well as to streamline some of our purchasing and other documents. Health services, use that to send documents out and get signatures rather than having to go to people's homes necessarily. We also have reviews of both information security and information technology policies. With that, any questions? It was really quick.
Yeah, just a quick summation. I think it's important to know where we are since the security audit, because that was such a big deal. But it also points out, you guys have invested in our IT structure, but there's a lot of savings there. We're reducing the number of network servers we have, which lowers our maintenance costs. We're reducing having to buy cell phones for employees because we have the soft phone technology now. We're finding these ways to put this stuff to work. And one big thing, and Scott touched on, but it's important, single point of failure is where you have one piece in the chain that if it goes down, the whole system goes down. And we had lots of those. And what happens there is you get all productivity is lost because staff is dead in the water until it's fixed. And Scott and his staff have done a tremendous job eliminating single points of failure. And lost staff time is expensive. So that's another way that IT has saved us money. So I think Scott's done a really good job addressing the security issues.
I agree. Thanks.
He's been here.
All right, our next one is a discussion and possible action on a request from Darrell Anderson regarding county property. Who's going to lead us on that?
We have Mr. Anderson and his attorney upstairs.
Good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Loud and clear.
Okay, thank you. My name is Ryan Carey. I'm a lawyer with Haywood, Carey, Anderson & Hudson. I'm joined today, to my right is Mr. Darrell Anderson. Before I get started on why we're here and why we're on the agenda, does everyone have in front of you a three-tabbed handout? I believe I provided it to the clerk. I think I see people picking it up. So the first page has got a map of Half Moon Lake and a red outline lot. So, okay, looks like that's in front of you. So want to thank the committee for hearing this matter today. We're here today, a little bit of background for you. Mr. Anderson and his wife, Tamara Anderson, purchased this property, which was located at 1319 County Road G on the north side of Half Moon Lake. That sale took place in August of 2019. In the first page of what you have in front of you, that tab number 1 is obviously a printout of the county GIS mapping system showing what were the marketing material that was put out as being the outline of this particular lot. And as you can see, according to this map, this cabin enjoyed deeded access to Half Moon Lake. My clients have since learned through a survey that they do not, in fact, own frontage on Half Moon Lake, which would be south of County Road G. If you pull tab 2, you will see the map of survey that was done by Yunker Land Surveying. And I have outlined in yellow the border of what comprises this lot as we sit here today. That's the most recent survey. Flipping to the second page of tab 2, you'll see a little bit more detail, which would show the where the home and garage are located on the lot, and how this lot does not in fact extend across G to the lake. And the reason we're here today is that if you look back and if you pull tab 3, you'll see it in 1964, there was an apparent conveyance from the then owner of this property to the county. And although I certainly don't have firsthand knowledge as to the rationale behind this conveyance, we've been told by those that do have some knowledge that the purpose of that conveyance was there was going to be some restructuring or reworking of the location of County Road G. Those plans, I believe, were abandoned some 50 years ago, never happened. The other reason why we're here is because, of course, despite the fact that the county appears to be entitled to this parcel in question, that since 1964 and prior, but certainly after the conveyance and at all times since then, my client, together with their predecessors in interest of this property, have possessed and maintained and used this property in question. And so the request here is for this committee to consider a reconveyance of this property in question, again, because although the county appears to be entitled, again, my client, together with his predecessors in interest, have been in possession since the conveyance occurred in 1964, which is going on close to 60 years. So that's why we're here. We of course have some potential other avenues available to us to achieve this same result. However, in talking, bringing this issue up with your legal counsel, this suggestion was made to come before you to see if there is a way to resolve this short of pursuing those other legal remedies.
Chair. This is in my district. I know the road very well. It'd been nice to actually have pictures of the properties along there on both sides and along County Road G, but County Road G runs along the north side of Half Moon. Almost all the dwellings are on the north side of G. All of the dwellings, the cabins, all have to cross County Road G to get to the lake. It's all the way up and down that road. There are a few cabins, you know, once you get in there a little ways, there's maybe 4 or 5 of them that are on the south side of G, you know, maybe halfway down or a third of the way down. And I do know, you know, we've done some projects over there too with County Road. I have never heard about this issue until I saw it on our agenda. But what they're asking for, I think now, is because we have a county road right away. I looked at the GIS map when I saw it on our agenda. And there's multiple properties along this road that really don't have access. It's not just this one, if I'm correct, Mo.
The one next to it does not have access down there.
Technically access, but they mow it, they have their docks there.
Yes, we ran into that issue before on that, with the DNR and stuff, and their docks technically should not be there. Due to that, only the Hyperion owner can have a dock out there, otherwise you risk liability on there. Where we have right of way that comes back out to within our right of way that goes right to the water line, and this is deeded county right of way versus standard right of way that we have access to. So it's not an area that I go out and look to see and make sure docks are moved. On County Road Y, where it comes down to Horse Lake there, where it's very narrow. One year we had 5 docks going there. Subsequently, I called DNR, and DNR had all those docks removed. It's nothing I go looking for. But the access, this gentleman, Mr. Anderson, did approach me earlier about selling right away. through that, and that's typically nothing that I want to give up. So that's kind of where I left it with Mr. Anderson.
What would be the right of way used for there? I mean, we have right of ways that are in that area that are, there's a lot, I know there's lots down the road there where the right of way comes right up to their house. There's no way you're ever going to use the right of way there. That County Road G is, you're never going to expand the width of that road, are you?
It comes with road maintenance, public utilities, utilizing the right of ways for those areas and trenching through there. So it's used for multiple things, but mainly.
But not expanding the road bed. You're never going, G is not proposed to ever be made any wider.
With a 35-mile-an-hour zone there, there's nothing in plans for making it wider.
I have some questions. Yeah. Anyway, maybe Malia can answer. This sounds to me, I could be mistaken, like somewhat of an adverse possession type of situation. And a question I have is about us setting a precedent. And also, I encounter all the time property owners who don't really know what they own or where their property lines are. Something, I guess, just to consider is, are we going to set a precedent that every property owner along County Road G is going to come back to us and want property deeded over to them? And then also, this is lakeshore property. You know, do we want to give this away to people? It has value, no matter how small it is. It's on a lake. It has value. It's going to improve the value of their property. So
I'm sure what they're contesting is they paid for that value already in their purchase.
in their purchase,
They should
yeah.
go back to the owner and say, hey, you didn't sell us lakeshore property, right? That's what you're saying.
Well, and I don't know. You know, I am not, I'll be the first one to say I'm certainly not that knowledgeable or an expert about any of these things. But these are just questions that I have before we could make an informed decision, is about, I have questions about setting a precedent and, you know, kind of giving things away. You know, I don't know if anybody else has any thoughts on that or is familiar with case law or how these things are done in the past. But, you know, I think everything has value, and I just kind of hate to see us give away things.
I have a question too then. Are you guys saying, is it Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson saying that because the road right away, does the road right away go to the water? Does he? So it goes, the road right away goes to the high water mark.
Correct.
So there's no land between the road right away and the lake.
Not at this point, no.
Well, there used to be, I think the ice has heaved that property over the last 50 years. So it definitely has shrunken the amount of that eyebrow right there. But if you were going from the edge, you know, you're talking 15, 20 feet from the edge of the road to the water's edge right now.
Yeah, okay, I was just trying to see if there was something there that, because sometimes you see these surveys. I went in and looked at this, and GIS says, I looked at the GIS, and it didn't show that parcel went across the property. So the map here that says that was GIS, when I went on GIS, it didn't show that one with the red lines. But maybe that's what someone thought they were selling you.
Well, that's certainly, you know, that was part of our, when this property was originally listed, it was listed with 100 feet of lake shore. And it wasn't until probably 3 weeks before closing that the real estate company that we were working with came out with the map that you've got in front of you showing, well, you know, in fact, you don't have 100 feet. You've only got what they said is somewhere between 20 and 30 feet. And then after some discussions, I mean, we still loved the lot, loved the lake, some discussions with the seller, we decided to move forward with purchasing it. You know, our concern is, I want to, obviously this is a lake cabin. We always want to have our dock and our pontoon lift, you know, available over there. And with the information was given to us, that was going to be the case. Now, our next step was, okay, let's find out exactly where this property is according to the map. And that's when we had it surveyed, unfortunately, to find out no, we don't have anything over there. So that's, obviously how all this started. I do.
Where did you buy the property from and how long prior, before they sold it, were they landowners there?
Huberty's were there about 10 years, I think. I mean, I've got the tax records in front of me and certainly going all the way back to 2009, they were property owners.
Do you know how long the property's been used for this residence, for their dock and their activities?
This property's been used with the dock and boat lifts out there going back 30, 40 years. It's always had a dock and lifts in front of this property.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead, Mike.
Mr. Chair? Is Mike? I certainly wouldn't want to make a decision on this at the meeting. I think if we could get some presentation on what the value of the property is, the question about precedent that Fran raised, and if Mr. Anderson and his lawyer would like to make an offer to the county and the county has no interest in keeping the land, we could consider that at an appropriate time. And so I would like to defer that.
And I would recommend, if you want to postpone to a date certain, which is what I think Supervisor Pritchard was saying, we could put a closed session and I could answer a lot of Fran's questions. And I think those are very good questions and we can talk about those.
Yeah, I would be for that. And so Mr. Anderson knows that we'll keep talking about it. We just need to get our legal counsel to give us advice, but.
That's something we could do next month.
Yeah.
We'll put it on our agenda for a closed session for next month.
I'd like to make one just additional comment, and this is looking at the tax rolls going back 10 years and the property value. The property value there, unfortunately, already includes potentially having that lake access. Not having that access significantly devalues our home, our cabin. So that, that's part of our concern with this. I know what we paid for that cabin. We're going to lose over $100,000 if I don't have access to the lake, of some type, whether it be deeded or whatever.
You may have other remedies, I don't know, but if the property has value and the county owns it, I think we need to look at that.
We'll take it out. We'll definitely work on it and try to see if we can help anyway.
Ryan, anything else?
No, thank you for hearing this today. And if it would be okay, my intention would be to follow up with a letter to your council outlining our position on the matter in advance of your next meeting, if that would be acceptable.
That would be a good idea. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
That brings us to a presentation on the recycling program by the Public Works Director.
Wait 5 years for this, Mo.
I'll try not to talk too long on recycling. It's a large topic as we go through it and look at it. As you recall, in March, I handed out a recycling report that gave some detail on that, some information. We've had some subsequent presentations from that. As I can say, starting out with the recycling program, trying to keep up on recycling is very encompassing as we come to so many different things. As you get questions on the disposal of e-cigarettes and vaping devices and the batteries that power those and what's hazardous and what's not on that. So put together a program, and it was asked about other programs around us. So next slide, Chad. what we'll look at is, how we got here, what does our program look like, how much do we recycle, what do other counties around us do, and what do their programs kind of look like. We're going to look like how we compare to those programs and look at a couple options. And I put on there who pays. That's been a question on our programs on that. Next slide. Back in 1989, the county passed resolution becoming the responsible unit for the county that we're responsible for our program, outreach, collecting the data, looking at the grants and how that works. All the communities are part of that in Polk County, all our municipalities and townships fall under our RU. The county receives 2 grants a year, one for recycling at about $160,000 and one for solid waste, which has ranged anywhere between $13,000 to $15,000. Will be up next year to $18,000 and change. We have 16 drop bin locations. We offer recycling services at our site on Highway 8, which Polk County opted to have a material recovery center, a MRF, back in 1990. Bering County has an incinerator that'll play a little bit of part in there and how much they have to recycle. We hold 2 clean sweep events for hazardous waste, solid waste items, as your paints, your batteries, your hazardous materials you have in your house and your garage. You can get rid of them at that time. We take appliances. Next slide, Chad. The part on your left there, that shows kind of what we take in at the recycling center. We do latex paints, appliances, we do mattresses. Many people don't know we recycle mattresses at the recycling center. We do confidential shredding at the recycling center. We do take in electronics. We're the only ones that are certified to get rid of electronics in Polk County. We do those things. On the right here is our drop-in locations. You can tell that, we cover 16 municipalities at these locations. But the neighboring municipalities do utilize our boxes. And of course, we have a recycling center at Highway 8 in St. Croix Falls. We do approximately a little over 1,600 tons of recycling in our drop-in locations. We have them at, one of the issues here, Amory's are at the trailhead of the cattail there. Looking at that location, I would like to find another location for those bins in Amory, because as a RTV user comes in to use the cattail trail, it's surrounded by 8 bins, and the bins get a lot of usage down there, which we'll get into a little bit here. But that's one of the areas we need to look at in 2021 is a better site for bins, because we want to open up the cattail as one of your priorities for tourists. Next slide. These are our drop-in, what we get from our drop-in locations. Some of these you'll see in here, and I'll have a different slide on those in a minute, but we do have some private businesses in here. Those in 2021, those bin locations are going away, as our ordinance says that our drop bins are for residential recycling, not business. They've been notified that St. Clair County Regional Medical Center has been notified that they need to contact a private hauler for their recyclable bins. Our top one right now, City of Amory. These are numbers off of 2019. They're off our grant. They did 285.33 tons of recycling came from Amory, whereas Lamb Falls did 9 tons, a little over 9 tons. So depending on the location, there's different amount of recycling that's being done at our locations. I have my notes here. Along with our drop-in locations, we do outreach. As you saw, probably the email on December was recycling tips for holiday recycling, Christmas tree lights, that stuff. That goes out to Facebook. That goes to the schools. They print that off. Our Facebook page reached about 1,500 people. Overall, this time it's around 3,000 people. Washburn and Burnett County. They came together and they formed a recycling control commission. 5 county board members from Burnett County, 2 county board members, and 3 citizens from Washburn County. They contract out through Northwest Regional Planning Commission to run their recycling program. They stay within their grant dollars. They have 11 drop in locations, but they're behind gates. There's certain hours. 9 to 1 is primarily most of their drop-in locations. And they hold one clean sweep event in each county. With that, St. Croix County, a little bit different. St. Croix County, they are the RU. Most municipalities of St. Croix are part of that. They use their grant money to pay their county employee, the outreach, and special events. And the main cost of that is on their local municipalities. So whatever grant money is left over, they disperse that back out to the municipalities to cover the cost of their recycling program. It typically covers 66% of the municipality's cost. In your packet at the back, there's kind of a summary of all these. It shows that part of the fees they have, some of the municipalities, City of Richmond and some other ones, they have their own recycling fees per month.
Also, we see this site, Burnett and Washburn. They create a recycling control commission. So who picks up their bins and where do they go with their bins?
Right now, they have a contract with Republic to pick up their bins and take Republic. Republic is a trash hauler, okay, recycling hauler.
Yeah.
Their contract and the volume they hold right now is approximately $63,000 a year to haul their bins.
And where do they get hauled to?
They get hauled to Sorona where they're baled, and then those recyclables go to the cities to another MRF.
So they don't have their own recycling facility,
Recycling center,
but they're keeping their community cleaned up by doing it this way.
by doing it this way. We did get a price from Republic on what it costs to haul our bins, or with our volume that we have. It was subsequently much higher than 63,000 a year. It was closer on the range of 33,000, 35,000 a month. Our bins to haul to Sorona up there. We did get prices to haul them from our locations back to our MRF too. With those grant dollars, with those dollars.
So is Republican out of?
They're out of Sorona, up north.
You didn't check with local providers to do that same service?
We reached out to them. Republic was the one that responded back to us.
So you didn't go local, so we don't know what a local hauler would charge.
They did not respond back to our.
My question is, do you know what a local hauler would charge? It is no.
No,
Okay.
they didn't get back to us on that.
But you can pick up the phone and call them again, right?
You can keep calling, I'm sure.
It's just sometimes when you make a presentation using a number or a company that is not even going to be viable to do it, I think it skew off your presentation that you're using numbers that aren't accurate.
And I have talked to people at Waterman's on curbside recycling, stuff like that. Got ballpark numbers. The main cost of their program, the St. Croix model uses no fees for county levy. They have no fees as far as county levies, and they use no county level dollars. That one. The main cost of the program is the municipalities provide that. Next slide. How do we compare to the other ones? These are off the 2019 grant applications. They sent in. The state standard per capita that the state says we need to meet to do that is 82.4 pounds per capita. Washburn does 50.99. Burnett does 74.05. We do 102.69. Standard size for population. The state standard for St. Croix County, because of their density and what they have, Hudson's the big thing. More said theirs is 92.12. They do 138 pounds of recycling per capita on that one. The state standard size for Barron County, they got grandfathered in. It's 30.4 because they have an incinerator, different category according to the state and DNR. But they do 54.5, so they're well above what their standard one is. Their incinerator. How are we doing to date right now? This is where the issues come in. It's market based. Right now, we're holding our own with the market. Back in 19, we didn't make it. We used, it cost us $225 thousand in extra levy dollars. Cost per household would be $5. 2018, we didn't make it. 2017, we had a good year with the market. We were over. We came above that. 2016, again, we were below. Cost us more levy dollars. 2020, right now, we're trending to be okay because the market has been up for some of the commodities on that. Next slide. This now is a breakdown of what we have. One of the things of our program we still have out there is capital needs. In the Froth study, it said an estimated cost of $600,000 to $1 million to update our facility, upgrade the tipping floor. That did not include anything with the facility or the facade of the facility or ongoing equipment needs. Dispersity of funds allocation is what covers everything. In 09, the county pays for the entire recycling program right now. The comments I've heard is should Amory pay the same amount or Clam Falls pay the same amount as Amory? So how would we do that? One of the ideas would be we did a tipping fee, what was approved for the commercial haulers bringing stuff in there. If we did subsequently the same thing to make it more equitable between the towns and municipalities, how would that look? It would look somewhere around, you take the city of Amory, if we did a commercial tipping fee is $70 per ton. If we did that where our drop bin locations are, Amory would be, Clam Falls would pay $655 a year to have their recycling program and take their recyclings up there.
Before you leave that screen.
Sure.
He flipped the screen. I have a question on that before you leave it. Keep going.
Oh, okay. Subsequently, with Amory's tonnage down there, they pay almost $20,000 in recycling fees to help offset the cost of running the recycling program. The ones in yellow again here are businesses. Those will no longer be on there. In 2021, we've notified GAM and the Justice Center. Those departments will be paying for those recyclables out there. And not just with that. Before I read that, you have a question?
Yeah, so on the top, your capital needs at the center, you got the study estimate, so we could spend $1 million getting the center ready.
Yes.
And then why didn't you include a building shell and ongoing equipment costs just to say, what if? Just like you did with your, what if they came all the way down here to haul? Why don't you put those numbers in front of that so we've got the what ifs?
I didn't dive that far into that big project, knowing that I didn't have
Just throw out a number then.
for the facade.
Yeah. What does that mean, building shell?
I would look at another $400,000 for upgrades of HVAC, more of that kind of stuff.
On top of the million.
On top of the million.
And then equipment costs, ongoing equipment costs, what does that mean?
Replacing trucks at intervals as you go every 5 years, every 6 years. Your forklifts.
How much is that? Roughly.
A truck would be approximately $80,000. We have 3 of them, so if you replace one every 6, you'd have that cost approximately every 4 years, and then on a 12-year cycle.
And then besides trucks, what other equipment costs do you have there?
It would be forklifts, skid steer,
Bins
and bins run. We try to replace a few every year. Right now, our bins are about $5,500.
So just roughly a year, what's our ongoing equipment costs if you just had to throw a number out?
Equipment costs on an ongoing year, splitting them out, going back, rating them out around $45,000 a year, just for rolling stock.
Just a general $45,000 a year that you have, the county has to
Trying to take all that equipment and trying to average it out.
45 grand a year.
About 45 grand.
Really, that 1 million could be $1.5 million with an ongoing equipment cost of 50 grand a year.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This one right here is the key one, because that's our outgoing cost. Having a tipping fee covering our recycling costs and our market costs.
It's on today's cost, right?
Is on today's cost.
So what would those tipping fees need to do to get us compensated for another $1.5 million? How many extra years, or what would the fees need to go up to cover another $1.5 million to get that thing to jive.
In 2019, our tipping, if we had these tipping fees with these tonnages, we'd make, it'd get us $113,000.
Take us 10 years to pay off that $1 million.
Take us 10 years to pay off that. Subsequently, in the bad year of 2018, when we used 100, that would barely cover the cost of the bad year in the market.
And that's including not having bad years.
Not
In the last 10 years, how many bad years have we had?
the last ones we showed here on this screen was 3.
That's over 5 years.
That's back to 5 years. Yeah.
And in those 5 years, what were our losses?
32,000, 141, 125.
So we could have over a 5-year span or a 10-year span, we could have another $1 million of losses just not being up with the market.
With the market. Sure. You know, with the upgrade on that, Z bales are commingled plastic bales. And Z bales right now, we plastic everything together in one plastic bale. Being that it's plastic, it's 20.5 cents a pound. So you send out a load, that semi-load will get us $6,500. You have the ability to separate out natural plastics. Natural plastics are at 69 cents a pound. That same load will get you $21,000. You have the ability to separate out those plastics and send them out differently with areas of improvement.
So my question is, when you look at that, so just rough numbers, you've got no calculation what tipping fees would be to actually, what I heard over 10 years, there's $2.5 million that's not factored into these equations of the tipping fees would have to actually be to cover that cost.
Depending on the cost of this tonnage here, your tipping fees get you $113,000 a year.
I understand, but and you were saying you could probably kind of break even. It's right now it's $113,000 to pay off $2.5 million in 10 years.
Right. To be ahead right now, if you look at,
Am I looking at it wrong, Chad?
No, if you're looking at a 10-year payback, then your tipping fees at 113 are not going to cover your payback.
it's not going to cover the
What does, that's my point, is what realistically would the tipping fees need to be to cover, if we're hearing today,
230 a year roughly.
230,000, so Amory's fees instead of being 20 would go to 40 grand.
Go to 40, correct.
And I think that's where people need to hear the truth.
You know, if you're trying to do that buyback,
Well, if you want to break even,
if you want to break even,
historically, that's what we have to realistically realize. Putting that much money of general fund money, $2.5 million out over 10 years, the tipping fees, if we want to say we want to break even, not saying we're going to have break even, or we even want to, maybe we don't want to break even. But if we want to break even, I think that's a more realistic number, that Amory's fees are going to go to $40,000 a year for those containers they got
to play
to be in our program.
to be in our program and be equitable. Yes.
And that's where I think, me, and maybe you'll get to it, Waterman Sanitation would say, hey, Amory, why would you pay the county 40 grand a year and I'll do it for 5 grand a year?
I haven't spoken to Waterman's recently.
Maybe they'll say, we'll do it for nothing.
Several years ago, as part of the Emory Women's Club, had a lot of dialogue with both Watermans, and they spoke to Mo, I believe, and other county officials. At that time, Watermans had zero interest in expanding and taking this on. I have no idea where that stands at right now. But something, too, I think we need to explore and keep in mind is that tipping fees are not the only way to finance these things.
No, I understand. Waterman did come to Environmental Services a couple years ago when we started doing that, probably 3 years ago. They came and they did come and make public comment on all that stuff.
Yeah.
That they were interested and they would look at, they were interested in whatever it would do. And he told us what their business did and what they had to haul and clean up. And I mean, we had a good, thorough, that's why this has been going on for years.
Barron County is going through a change in theirs also. They're scaling back as far as the incinerator, and they sort some recyclables at their incinerator and that. They're getting rid of their resorting machines. They're taking the staff at that center and making them attendants go out and stand at the bins when they're open and try to separate out the plastics and that at that location. See how that works. Not sure how that works with contamination. And have that. We only have one site that has an attendant, and that's down in Farmington. When they're open on a Saturday, there's a town person down there. With that.
That was all I wanted on that slide, just to understand what those mean when you say does not include.
And tipping fees, we started with 70. There's places that charge $150 a tipping fee, depending on what they're dumping on there. That brings me to, the program overall. When we look at our program, the decision making, we upgrade and share the cost model with the tipping fees and the municipalities with this, because it's very expensive. You talk to the watermen's, everyone likes to recycle, no one wants to pay for it. That's the issue we have with all that. Even he said that, everyone wants to recycle, no one wants to pay for it. Municipal tipping fee, residential tipping fees, or residential fees, it encumbers levy dollars, so that when you have a good year, you may be taking levy from other departments. Barron County has a residential fee. Their fee right now is $28. It's going up to $30. With that fee, they have right now they have annually a couple $100,000 they get. They have a surplus now of $400,000 in their account.
St. Croix County do. Are you going to get to that in the presentation or no?
Part of that, I did it was part of that in that slide. They don't have residential fees. They put it on municipalities more or less.
Right.
They cover their grant. They don't have a county fee. Some of the municipalities in the RU have their own fees to help cover their costs. The county administers the program and covers their costs through the grant, and then subsequently shares that grant money, what's left, with the municipalities.
I've just heard a lot of positive things about how St. Croix County runs their program down there, and the municipalities like the way it's being done.
Right.
Because, there again, I go back to your scenario. Sorry, I'm going to beat you up on that, but you picked that company from how many miles away?
They collect in Polk County also.
Oh, I know, but how many miles away are they?
Surrounded?
Yeah. You know how many miles away it is?
Well,
Yeah, you
like Spooner,
Yeah.
it's by Shell Lake up there.
Under Ice Lake.
Right, so it's an hour's drive for them to send a truck in here, where Waterman is right here. So clearly Waterman would be the right analysis for a lot of us. They're in our community already doing stuff. And my point again would be municipalities controlling their cost of the recycling, right? Right. So again, why would Amory say, hey, yeah, we'll pay 40 grand or 20 grand a year when they know people from the township are using the bin? And that's where, again, I'm going back to that resolution. We're kicking this can again, which I guess I tried to do what I thought you wanted to do. You said before, we just need to know what you want to do. We wrote a resolution to say study it for a year and give us some good feedback. And it seems like we're trying to figure it out in committee, which we're never going to get it figured out. I'm a little complex on why are we going through all this again? I just don't get it. I don't get it. So if you guys want us to withdraw the resolution forever and just keep it going the way you got it going, fine. I thought we wanted to solve a problem, and it doesn't feel like we're trying to solve a problem. I just want you to hear that, Administrator.
I guess that's where
We've done this, we've been doing this for 5 years, talking like this in circles, coming up with different scenarios. And you're gonna ask us at the end of this, what do you guys want to do?
You want us to decide what to do?
Well, we had a resolution that was supposed to go to the county board.
You withdrew.
I withdrew it because I wanted a presentation of pictures and what's going on with it. And I was sick the first month, and now it's back on our county board. And I just don't get what we're doing, to be honest with you. I mean, I personally am burnt out on talking about recycling and hearing the same old thing. And our township doesn't have a bin. And our township is paying for everyone else's recycling program, is what I've heard. We have a facility that isn't in good shape. And we have certain municipalities that are taking advantage of it, and others don't have the ability to. We have businesses are, and you're just telling us the same stuff you've been telling us for years. Someone has been. And I'm just, as chair, I'm just telling you, as I'm,
Well, I hope
I could go to work and get something out of my day than sitting here listening to this again. That's just my opinion. Sorry, I'm being honest, but.
Well, and of course, not all of us have sat through it as many times as you have.
I know, but you're brand new at it, and that's part of being a new supervisor.
But I don't mind sitting through it at all.
I do.
For me, my constituents, this is a big deal. And obviously it's a big deal because Amory contributes so much. And, totally agreeing with what Chris says. A lot of people from the surrounding townships come in and they use the bins in Amory. People from out of state with lake homes and everything else. As far as recycling costs go, anything that the county is picking up levy-wise on the recycling center, the city of Amory is paying more than their fair share of because we comprise such a large value within the county. So they're not getting anything we're not getting
I would
anything
disagree
for
with that
free.
completely. Balsam Lake, the Balsam Lake and Half Moon in my township, we don't have a container in our township. And that lake district of ours probably generates as much tax revenue as yours does. And we're compensating you, is what you should say.
No, I disagree with that, Chris.
We're not going to do an analysis, but that is what it is.
I mean, it's pretty easy to find out what the assessed values of every municipality in the county is. But why can't we improve and have bins at the townships?
That's the point of what we were supposed to be doing with this for the last couple of years, is how do we improve the program? And we don't seem like we're trying to improve the program.
I think being a rural county, people don't have as many options for recycling than they do in a county like St. Croix County. That is, has more available within a shorter distance. And that's why I think if this is a service that people in the county want, and if it's a service that people in the county are willing to pay for, and I'm not saying that they are or they aren't. I'm just, these are ifs I'm throwing out there. And we are already providing the bulk of that service. Then I think we need to look at how are we going to continue it, how are we going to make it solvent, and how are we going to move forward with it.
But Fran, that was the resolution. The resolution that was being proposed that our committee talked about was sent to the county board for the county staff to come up with plans and gave them a year to study it. Instead of sitting here in committee, for us to sit here and go through all this stuff and listen to it, like we're going to come up with a recommendation, right? It ain't going to happen. So that's all the resolution was. You were the one that signed the petition that said, oh, we don't want the recycling center closed. Well, the resolution didn't say to shut the recycling center. It said, would you please look at the options of privatizing it?
But that was only one option.
No,
that's in that
I think it was the-
resolution, not other options that we have been presented with.
No,
Not in that resolution.
it was up to staff who knows what's going on, that I assume you guys were going to work on it for a year and come back to this county board before next budget season. That's what the crutch of the resolution said, that you would give us some options. Is that not what the intent of that resolution was?
I don't agree with that's the way that it was worded, that it conveyed that intent.
Okay, then that's what I thought the resolution I signed was for. Because you said, tell me what you guys want me to do. So our committee put together a resolution, I signed it.
For some reason, I thought it said, if let's plan on closing the recycling center within a year, provide us alternatives.
Well, we did that. That's what the resolution said. It was pretty simple. I just feel like this is redundant. I mean, this is a waste of our time.
We have different members, but I kind of, as I watch it, I kind of get a sense that we're getting examples of what other counties are doing and we're seeing what the expenses are. So the question is,
Yeah, what is the question?
you guys can decide, do we want to spend this money here or do we want to spend this money here? And,
Money.
and if I guess,
You're asking if, should we, so you're saying you want us to give you a kind of a goal to say, yeah, go put together and spend another $1 million on the recycling center? Is that the question? Is that what you'd rather us say instead of study it for a year? What are you asking for then?
I think we're giving you, here's what other counties do. Do any of those catch your fancy?
I already told you, St. Croix, I said that a few years ago, St. Croix Falls got my fancy.
Do we want to make a resolution?
Huh? St. Croix County was a good example that we've heard for a long time was a good way to do it. And originally, 5 years ago, it was, how can we look at the role of this managing, what do you call it? What do we consider the managing?
Responsible unit.
For the responsible unit. And that's what Waterman came to the committee and talked about, was how do we create a new responsible unit like St. Croix Falls? And that was before you were in charge of this. That was Debbie Peterson. And that was what we were supposed to be looking at. And this has turned into a whole different thing. And I just,
I got it up if you want.
can you explain what the resolution said?
Number, by the way.
It is 3719.
Oh, it's 19.
So there's two be it further resolved clauses, and this resolution directs the county administrator to enhance Polk County recycling program and rewrite the Polk County recycling ordinance. This is to look into the need of owning a recycling center, options to enhance the current recycling center, and options to provide a recycling program without a county-owned recycling center, providing information and impacts to the county board for both options.
I thought that's what we were asking staff to do, was for the next year to work on this, not work on it in committee. And if that's not the intent of that resolution, and Fran, you see something or Vince, I don't mind someone marking it up, or we just quit talking about it and just let staff do whatever they want with the recycling center. I don't care anymore, to be honest with you.
I honestly thought the presentation you wanted was to show what other counties do around there and how. That's kind of what I base this on and how we look.
And Chris, that resolution hasn't came to county board yet.
No, it has to. Well, it did, but then I pulled it because I wasn't there to talk.
Until it does, really, we haven't given staff no direction. Until we pass that resolution, then we have. Okay, so maybe that's what we need to do, is get that resolution to county board, pass it, and now staff has direction. Right now, we've asked them to look up stuff, we've asked them to put comparables together, and I think that's what they're doing. We've given them no direction.
Yeah. Well, the resolution was direction. I thought
It hasn't passed.
it hasn't even been on the board agenda. And so I had asked for a presentation, but they assumed this presentation was going to show the county board, right?
Trying to pass the
To
resolution.
say, here's why we put a resolution together. Because I know we haven't seen this exact format and we haven't seen this exact stuff, but I've heard all of the same stuff. To our questions, we've heard the same thing for years. Okay. So I thought, okay, because when we got all the outrage or the comments like, don't close the recycling center, we got the petition, that told me even Fran didn't know what we were passing because you sat in a committee for months talking about it, and then you sign a petition from the people of Amory saying, don't close the recycling. And it never was about closing the recycling center.
Well, first of all, the petition was not from the city of Amory.
No,
It was from the Amory Women's
I saw
Club
it.
that are comprised of people all around the county.
Yeah.
Second of all, that petition is about 3 years old. This was not a recent petition that was circulated.
Well, it seemed like it was recent.
This was a petition because they had such short notice.
They just pulled something out of the hat.
They-
Stuff.
They didn't, and I can't speak directly for them because I'm not a member anymore.
Yeah.
I was a member for a long time, and at the time I signed that.
Sure, okay, well, that helps to clarify it, thank
Yes,
you.
but they didn't feel that their position had changed.
Well, that would have been helpful if that would have followed up the petition, because it looked like you guys just all ran out and signed something.
No, that petition circulated at a club, at a
Sure.
organizational
That's helpful to
meeting
know.
over the course of several months. Some of the people who signed that may or may not be members anymore.
Yeah, and that's all I think, Mo, is you're saying this all to us again. I'm just sure, what are we going to do with this information Mo gives us today? And I don't want to, if you want to keep going through it, I'll go through it all. But I'm already closing down. And personally, maybe everyone else wants to hear the whole thing, but I'm just wondering what our committee is going to do with this information now. Are we planning on doing something with it?
Mike, if I could say a word?
Go ahead, Mike.
Mike, okay, I just talk from St. Croix Falls, and let's say that my neighbors and I, most of my neighbors and I have trash pickup with Waterman or with Waste Management, curbside, with recycling pickup twice a month. I haven't heard anything in the presentations or the discussion, and I pay $204 a year for my Waterman pickup at this point in time. And I presume that somewhat similar situation both in Amory and Osceola, although I don't know, and that would comprise approaching 40% of our county population maybe. But anyway, I haven't heard in the presentation how these people would be affected by any of the possible changes that we're talking about and funding and I guess I don't know how much in general levy I am paying in addition to my $204 a year for trash pickup and recycling.
That's why we thought about passing a resolution out of our committee that would allow the county staff to develop a couple options of a program, and next year we would have some things to look at.
Well, those are questions I think would be of direct interest to the users, the community, if those questions could be addressed and answered given certain assumptions, and one of them being refurbishing the Highway 8 Recycling Center, and then these other alternatives are in the PowerPoint this morning. But anyway, I haven't heard that, and I don't know the answer to that of how that comes out. And I do share the feeling. I'm very strong for recycling, and as Fran says, I think that a lot of people are willing to pay something for it to try and keep our planet clean. And so I don't know that there are just a lot of questions that are still out there. I don't think they've really been answered.
And that's why we have a resolution to say study it for a year. Why do we get bogged down in committee, Chairman, on trying to develop a recycling program with a few of us? It just seems ridiculous that we're going to keep talking about this. Do we want to do something about it, or do we just drop it?
Well, is the resolution on next county board meeting?
I think it was after this committee, we were going to possibly amend the agenda again.
The agenda either, so I don't even know if we should be talking about it.
Agenda.
The amended agenda, the resolution was.
The resolution is. Okay, so we can't
We're
do
talking
it.
about a resolution and it's struck from the agenda.
We're talking about the recycling center.
Why was it struck from our?
I don't know. I wondered the same thing.
Oh, why were those words taken out?
Well, yeah, the recycling center discussion
Someone
and
amended it.
possible action. Because we pulled it because Chris wasn't there to speak to it. But why isn't it on our county board agenda? Can it still be put on?
We're going to amend it for the public comment from the previous committee. So
And what I'm asking you, Chair, is if the committee is not going to support the resolution to have the staff study it, then maybe the resolution isn't, because I don't want to take a resolution like that to say, hey, go study it. If the resolution, or it can be amended or marked up or down, but I almost question whether we should even have one. Because it sounds like you don't want to have staff do it. You want us to do it in committee and go through all these things one by one and develop some new program. That's how it's appearing to me. And I have no appetite to work on developing a recycling program month by month. So. Yeah.
Would it be appropriate or not for us to ask Mo to reach out to Waterman and to reach out to the other ones? So we know, just so we have the information of whether or not anyone besides this place in Serona are interested in even tackling it. Because the resolution does mention privatization. Well, maybe we ought to find out if anybody else would be interested in doing it or not before we move forward with it. Also, is there a possibility of amending the resolution to include?
We're not moving forward with privatizing it. Again, I think it was clear, Malia said it's to have staff study it. That's asking Mo to go out and do that. So we're asking in the resolution. Now you're saying, don't do it in a resolution. You just want to ask them to do it.
Well, I mean, we can pass a resolution, but perhaps if we have more information ahead of time, that negates what the resolution is trying to accomplish. We should look into that. Also, can the resolution be amended to also include the other financing options besides just the tipping fees or turning it over? Can it be made broader? I think what's
the concern, I guess? Again, I think that the resolution was supposed to give you broad discretion to go out and find out whatever options they want to do. They can come back, give us updates. We can work on it. Nothing's being approved. Nothing. It was just what I heard a couple months ago was, you guys just got to tell me, your exact words, you guys just got to tell me what you want me to do.
And that's what the resolution.
And that's what the resolution was, because staff said, tell us what you want us to do. Well, then why don't you guys spend a year and study it and give us back recommendations to make this thing, and it says to improve recycling in Polk County.
I think what people are freaking out about in the general public who does not have access or has access to, but doesn't participate in the meetings or hear everything. In my opinion, what I heard the most that bothered people about the resolution, what kind of set people off, so to speak, was the word privatization. So perhaps if the language of the resolution was broader, so that when people read that, it was maybe easier for them to understand that was not exclusively the direction that the county was looking at, that might help allay some of their concerns. I mean, we see the resolution says broad in it, but the word that jumps out to people, from what I've been hearing from the people who have been talking to me about it, that's the word that jumps out at them that they have the most concern about it. So perhaps if the resolution was amended or expanded to include the other financing options this committee has discussed, people would find it less objectionable, and perhaps even other board members here.
So you're saying you intend to add privatizing, tipping fees, financing options. You're asking for the resolution to have more stuff in the resolution that you're saying.
One of the options.
We want you to look at more options.
Was 49.
So the options that we're looking at, we're going to mention one option. Let's mention all the options so people know that we're considering them.
And I wish that would have came out in committee, because that's when we were talking about the resolution.
That's the one you
And I just assumed that he just did a lot of those today. We didn't have to tell Mo to go out and do a bunch of options. He did it. Right? We never told him to do it.
For the presentation, yeah, it was like, what are other counties doing? How do we compare to other counties? What are how does their models look compared to ours? So that's what I went out and looked
I
at.
think we can all make a case to our constituents that this is an issue that needs to be addressed. It's been needing to be
Fran,
addressed.
I'll go by you. Do you think it's appropriate to have the resolution on the county board agenda?
I would have to see it first.
Well, Malia just read it to you.
Is that the right?
That's the wrong resolution.
I thought you were talking about the resolution that passed, not the one that was pulled. So I read the, right, I was reading the resolve clause from the one that passed.
What the one that passed say?
It was the 3719.
Be passed, but
Never
it has
passed.
not to the board. Is that correct?
It was this year.
If you guys wanted the one that Chris asked for, and then we pulled because he was not available,
That was
right?
this year.
So I misunderstood. I thought you were wanting to know what staff has already been directed to do. Because it seemed like you were saying you're not doing what we've already told you to do. So I looked to the resolution that did pass, and that was
Just to
3719.
clarify,
I'm sorry. I know.
this was passed back in 2019, and this was the wording at that time with the 6-month time frame. This resolution passed back then. The chair instructed the drafting of a more recent resolution that never went to the board for passage.
What is that? That's the one Fran has the problem with.
This one?
Don't do that one.
No.
Let's look at the one that was struck from the board agenda.
Right, that was a 3 months ago, or
Computer's gonna die. I'm gonna go grab mine.
Let's take a look at that.
there was 2 of them that came out of this committee that we were going to amend the agenda, and we put on the rules of order, and it was something with this one, and then you guys said you broke it up at the county board, and you passed one, and the other one you said, hey, we're going to wait. I thought that's what happened at the board.
I thought it was the
You were at
public
that,
comment that we pulled.
Oh, so I'm
Yeah.
wrong.
you were at that meeting because
So what happened? Oh, the recycling one was a standalone that I wasn't there, so it got pulled.
No, you were there and you're the one that pulled it. I recall, maybe I'm wrong.
I thought you had COVID at that time.
Yeah, I was sick, and I asked for it to be pulled because I wasn't there to talk
You
about it.
weren't there to talk on it. That's what I remember.
Because all these things showed up, and, that's where we were getting all this public comment that we're selling and I went over and had a meeting with Endeavors to talk about the recycling center. Because Endeavors said, oh, you guys are selling it. And I said, no, we're not.
Well, maybe we need to do a better job of communicating to the public.
Well, I think I do a pretty good job of doing it. I don't know who we are.
Good for you.
Yeah, maybe you should. I don't feel that way.
Well, good for you.
If you wanted, here's resolution 4920. I'll never get it.
Yeah, it's okay.
All right. That is the resolution drafted that did not make it.
Not been to the, yeah, so what is the big?
Utilizing private service providers and facilities, that's what's freaking people out. Right there.
That line right there.
That line right there is what's freaking people out.
Throughout Polk County, and close the existing recycling center.
See, that's what,
Data must include detailed proposal.
Sure.
That's a county board meeting I chaired and I had that.
So it's your fault. You go, John.
I pulled that at your request.
I think we could look at the examples that Lois presented and try to mold that around Polk County, can we not? Just say, for us to do this, to have one similar, and then just say, here's what the cost would be, here's how it would be paid for, here's what the cities would engage, here's what citizens might engage. But I mean, it does take a lot of work because you are calling the Watermans and those people and trying to get information.
Yeah, I'm asking you to put forward a plan to improve the countywide recycling by utilizing private service providers and facilities throughout the county and to close the existing recycling center. So it kind of says, I guess, that's how I was reading that, now reading it again and listening to you, that you were going to give us an option in a year. Was it a year? And that in a year, you were going to give us an option to look at what it would look like to close the existing recycling center, not the program, just the center. You know, yeah, that's what it was about. It was, can you give us that? What does that look like if we would not have a facility? But I wasn't, you know, I was, I guess, still thinking back of the old resolution and thinking about improving, you know, I want to improve recycling. I don't want to make it worse. I want to improve it and save the taxpayers money. That's my goal. And if this one, you know, because I definitely don't want to push a resolution through something important as this and then not have support in a committee for it. Right? So I don't want to do this if you guys don't support this.
I wouldn't support it the way it's written.
Sure.
Personally, what everybody else does, that's totally.
Yeah, well, I didn't make this resolution go to them that I want to, hey, come up with this new idea. I wanted support because that's what I thought Mo was saying is I need someone to tell me what you want us to do. So this was about telling staff to work on this option so we could see it in a year from now. To say, this is what it looks like if the recycling center closes and private people run it. Here's how the program could look if that scenario was an option. That's what I thought we needed a resolution to direct you to do that, because you said I need you to direct me to do that.
And that's what I would need, because I'd have to go out to all the municipalities to see if they buy-in, because there'd be costs associated with municipalities. And I would need board members to look at their municipalities to explain it too, that this is what this is one plan on improving recycling. And how this plan would look if we didn't have a center.
And you need a resolution to do that work? Why do we even need a resolution to do that work? I thought we needed it. Can't the administrator say I want this work to be done? And this analysis to be done under the current resolution we got hanging out there?
I would think so.
Mr. Chair, Mike Pritchard again, if I could interject a bit. On line 19, how about putting a period after improve county-wide recycling, period. And then on
Are we out of order by working on the resolution, Chair?
Yeah, I think we are. And if we're going to, first the resolution needs to go to county board, then it can be.
Or maybe can't we just throw this in the trash and start over?
Well, yeah, it's not on county board. It got kind of pulled, so it's not anywhere.
I certainly support looking at the system and seeing if it can be improved, and looking at all the options that are probably the obvious or likely options, and if we need a resolution to do that, so be it. I don't know. I thought I heard someone say that our administrator wanted to have a resolution in that regard, but it can be just improve recycling without having specifics as to just how that's going to or may occur. But anyway, whatever the protocol is, I'm fine with that.
Well, Mike, I think what we're going to do is put it on our agenda for next month. And I guess if you wanted to take this draft of 4920 and rework it and bring us something back that we can start to work with, might be helpful.
Okay, well, I just had the 2 periods I was going to put in and not take out some of the specifics that were in the 2 therefore clauses.
I would just like to point out for a matter of resolution, by policy, if it comes to spending unbudgeted money, if we had to do something like the feasibility study for the lime quarry or something that was done, then you would need to authorize in that resolution.
Right.
like the administrator's authorized to expend such and such on this study.
I have a quick question for Mo.
Yes.
Has there been a public survey done about this issue, and if so, how long ago?
Public survey on,
Regarding the recycling program?
we did in the recycling report, the last, we did a survey monkey on that, on what people thought about the recycling program.
How long ago was that?
That was done beginning of the year.
Is that a survey that would still hold up to the issues that we're addressing or not? I mean, did that survey ask questions that are relevant to what we're talking about now?
I'll go for a new survey and ask more specific questions. Just to cover that. Did you get a copy of that?
Yeah, I do have it.
Yeah. Again, now we're sitting here telling you to do stuff like this. It's not our job to tell
I'm
you.
telling him to do anything. I'm just asking a question about what had been done in the past.
Yeah. Problem is with surveys is they're so subjective. You know, it's like who takes the survey, who doesn't take the survey. The last survey, how many people do you have answer the survey?
860, I believe it was, or 874. It was.
And there's 50,000 people that live in Polk County, and you had 800 people answer it. Kind of hard to say, oh,
Our caveat.
I just personally chair you down on the recycling center program. I just checked out.
I think we are done for.
I'm done.
For this month, we're done.
No, I'm done.
Okay, well then next month, maybe.
Someone else want to do it? Someone else wants to work with staff? But this guy is out of the recycling program trying to help solve a problem in Polk County.
All right, well, it'll be on our agenda next month and we'll see if someone wants to pick it up or if
Sure.
they want to just continue at the pace we're on and we'll see. We do have a lot of other items to touch on here.
Easy one.
Yeah, let's take an easy one here, like a discussion and possible action regarding Polk County's response to the Lime.
Oh, yeah, that's easy. How's that one going for you?
I'll tell you in 45 minutes, I guess. You want to start in on it? Or start? No. I just put together a short PowerPoint just to familiarize yourself.
Since they're not making it short.
It was. You had one question.
Yeah, you should put that part of any questions at the end. You just give your presentation and.
Answer. Yeah. Here, I get this. At the last meeting, we had the options, or you saw the proposals to purchase the lime quarry, 3 providers and stuff. The question was brought up about ensuring that the farmers had ag lime and a covenant on that. I spoke with we reached out to Von Briesen to write that covenant on there to ensure that if by chance Anchuck would sell the property, that the covenant would stay with the property to ensure that ag lime was provided to the farmers. With that, the high bidder is aware of that, waiting on the paperwork at request to look at that to make sure that we were in line and to make that happen. They are eager to start making ag lime for the farming industry. What I did here is just I'll go over this really quick. All I just want to do is just remind everyone what the quarry looks like. Reclamation has been an issue with that. The high wall down there is approximately 30 feet high. Reclamation is bringing that back to a 3-to-1 slope. Next slide. You can see part of the wall's been exhausted all the way to property line. And how that looks. Next slide. Go back one more, please. With a 30-foot high wall, it will take about 9,300 tons of fill every 100 feet to get a 3-to-1 slope on that. Next slide. Next slide. We talk reclamation. This is what reclamation looks like, a 3-to-1 slope back with grass growing material. So we can use it for another event, whether it be a park or a field on that. Currently, this area right here, this was a little 3-acre portion right here that we've been working on now for over a year as we strip and try to get material in there. This area here, this 3-acre, gets dated back to Mr. Rondo. let us mine that out, and that's going back there. At this stage right now, it's ready to get top dressed with black dirt for grass growing material. These are our existing buildings there, the crusher in the background, the loader shed, next slide. Storage shed with our tires in it, the scale house there. Some of our old conveyors, there's the crusher, old conveyors, old highway truck use those conveyors. Just wanted to give you an update of what that looks like. So that's where we are in the process. Malia, do you want to expand on anything in that right now? Where are we staying with that? The high bid was $1.3 million to purchase the quarry, land, equipment, and buildings. And we were, again, working with the covenant on that to, that's being drafted currently right now.
You have the covenant?
I have not seen it yet. I'm just waiting to send it over to,
We were supposed to have it before, the attorneys were supposed to have it to us before this meeting.
correct.
I don't have it.
I do not have it.
I move to postpone this then till next month. Because that was contingent on us having this.
I'm emailing them right now. I assumed that maybe it had gone to you.
It's all right. We'll we'll push it off 1 month.
They made a promise. This is really.
We got time.
They were supposed to be available
On WebEx.
by WebEx.
Right, we'll just postpone it 1 month. I'll make a motion to postpone this 1 month until we have the covenant to look at.
I'll second that.
All right, I don't think we need too much discussion on it. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, let's take another easy one.
I'll go quick on these, Mr. Chair.
Resolution 5820.
So as we discussed, we're going to start looking at our financial and personnel policies and IT policies annually. You'll get the first ever IT policies in February. I sent these out. The personnel policies are fairly simple. The substantive changes are minimal. Most of the changes were grammatical or position redefinition. We had an employee relations director, now we have a general government director. It also did a little role define. There were a couple of places where I put human resources manager in there, delegated some stuff down with the division model. A substantive change in here is regarding the ethics, the code of ethics. This is something that was erroneous in our last policy. It referenced a Annex M, which was never created. It's been clarified that Polk County employees will abide by the code of ethics as established by the state of Wisconsin legislature under Wisconsin statute 19.59, which applies to county employees. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I have a question about this, and I am certainly aware of and do not intend to speak about any specific county employee. This is kind of a low bar, isn't it? What is in the statute are things that, although very good, are also things that are very, very broad. You know, if we have employees, certainly county employees have First Amendment rights the same as everybody else. I fully support that 100%. Any municipal employee. But if they're conveying their personal opinions as a county employee and saying that they're a county employee while they're conveying a personal opinion, I think that that's another matter. If they're doing that publicly and they are criticizing supervisors, criticizing county policies, calling taxpayers names, making accusations, things like that. Now, is that something that if that would transpire that their immediate supervisor would deal with?
So in reference to that, there's substantive case law regarding where your First Amendment rights as an employee ends and where they
Yes,
begin.
and that's what I'm asking.
And we can deal with that in human resources.
Okay,
Now, that's for employees. If we're talking about anybody that's not an employee, an appointed member of a board, a supervisor, those kind of things, we actually have a resolution from, I think, 2013 that applies to supervisors, and that one is from. And those deal with different things. But yes, we can deal on the discipline level with those variations because, we don't allow employees to like attend board meetings as employees and say, well, I disagree with that policy. They can attend them as a public member during their off time, and we would deal with that in-house.
what also though about appointed, officials appointed by the county?
I'll defer to Malia on that one because that's an area kind of outside my scope.
That's not part of what's on the agenda today.
These are specific personnel policies.
Now, so Frank, you're talking about something, if you want that on the agenda, you should put it on the agenda. Would that be a point of order, Chair? Because she's talking about, well, a supervisor, right? Calling another supervisor an activist.
No, that's not what I'm talking about at all.
Oh, okay.
No, nope, you got that wrong.
Okay, I got that wrong.
Yeah.
I've gotten things wrong before, so I'm okay with that.
I do that all the time.
I know,
So, hey, I
I know you
empathize
do.
with. And I know you would love to point that out too.
All right, let's not get too bogged down here. What do we got on the?
Personnel issues, and Fran's talking about something besides this.
Stuff, possible action. It would only be on the changes that you've asked for
Yes,
in
sir.
the policies.
Maybe we can have that on a future agenda then.
I think so, because I think you're talking about something besides employees. You're talking about Tom Magnifici.
Actually, I am not.
What are you talking about then? Can you tell us?
I am not going to sit here in an open session and talk about
What would you do?
individual,
So what else would you do it?
because I'm not going to get sued. I'm not going to sit here and shoot my mouth off about individual people and criticize them and play he said, she said. No, I'm going to.
Whatever you want on the agenda so that you can talk about it, get it on the subject matters for the next meeting. So then you can talk about it.
So I'll go through there's only a couple other substantive changes in the personnel. Added Minnesota County of Chisago as a comparison county for the market studies and job offers and that kind of stuff. Life size, competitive county, just expanded it into that. And I think the only other substantive change was presently it says any starting salary above the minimum must be approved by the general government director with the concurrence of the county administrator. I spoke with Vince and we budget at the midpoint for a position. We don't necessarily offer the midpoint when they start, but we budgeted that for safe harbor budgeting. And Vince is in concurrence that this should be above the midpoint for concurrence of the county administrator. And a lot of the rest of it was like house cleaning about records or who does exit interviews, things like that as operational changes. But I guess, are there any questions about the revisions I said? A lot of it was just the operational structure.
Make a motion to approve them. Staff
Approve them?
Well, you approve them to go forward to the county board. Then
I would approve both of these.
Go to county
Go to
board.
county board.
I'll second it.
So do we need to go through the finance or not?
No.
Okay. The gist of it is we're revising the policies to function within the operation of the county. And just annually, we will do this.
All those in favor?
Right.
Again, we get to the work plan and we'll see how. Is there anything we need to add to our work plan? It's actually regarding development of the 2021 work plan. But
Yeah, I sent a draft to Lisa. And they all,
yeah, I think that's
the draft of the work plan.
it was on
Okay.
the 2020 work plan.
Yeah, I sent it. Yeah, I'll pull it up real quick. I apologize, guys. I tried to kind of put one together for you guys to look at, so it's better up a little bit. This is the 2021. I had to review IT policies. That'll be an annual, just like the personnel and finance will be in December. IT will be in February. As we discussed, review external agency funding requests in July, and we've made in the new financial policies, June 1st is the deadline for them to submit their stuff to us so that we have it in order for you guys to have more time to talk about it, because that was a request during this budget cycle. And those are the only other changes from this standing things that were on the work plan unless something needs to be added.
Great. Anybody got anything else on the work plan? How about subject matters for the next meeting? Ryan, what do you want to get on there?
Well, a couple of things. One, since we have a policy for elected officials and board members, we have a policy for employees. Let's talk about having a policy for appointed officials. I also would like to have on the agenda of the next meeting for discussion of potential action, the county board resolution regarding what's commonly referred to as fair maps, as well as potentially a referendum on the spring election regarding this.
That's right.
What was the one right before I was just finishing up with the next one? The policy development of for appointed elected officials. What was that part? I'm sorry.
An ethics policy.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
All right, anything else for subject matters? Some are going to carry over. Said the Lime Quarry was going to carry over. I don't really know. We said recycling.
We'll have a closed session on Anderson's property.
Recycling would still be on there.
Put together another presentation.
Well, I'm going to notify you now, Chair, that I'm going to miss next month's general government meeting. Just giving you a heads up to make sure you have a quorum. If you have recycling on there again, I'm out. I can't handle it. It's been 5 years we've been talking about recycling center. Literally, administrator.
I know.
5 years.
And
We talked, Chris, we
Just get frustrated if.
we talked about the Woodley Dam for probably 15.
I got
Yeah, what do you end up doing?
Pulling it out of there.
Right. Just don't put me through it, please.
I'll make a motion. We adjourn.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
No one wants to
All
adjourn?
those in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, let's stay here and keep talking.
All right, we'll stand adjourned at 12:50.
I cannot believe
1251 is
that you did not have that thing